YouTube was initially a dating website. Everyone's beloved video streaming website. YouTube has a plethora of video on all topics. But little did you know that YouTube was initially planned to be a video dating website. YouTube, that garnered over 1 billion views a month, was supposed to be a dating website that would have single people post their introduction videos online and get matches from people across the worldwide. Who controls the internet? The official answer is no one, but it is a half-truth that few swallow. If all nations are equal online, the US is more equal than others. Not that it is an easy issue to define. The internet is essentially a group of protocols by which computers communicate, and innumerable servers and cables, most of which are in private hands. However, in terms of influence, the overwhelming balance of power lies with the icann, based in Marina del Rey, California. icann is a non-profit organization that regulates online addresses known as domain names and their suffixes, such as .com or .org, etc. So since icann reports to the US government's Department of Commerce, the domain name process is effectively overseen by the US government. China, Russia, and Europe have all expressed concern at this situation because it means the US has leverage over the global coordination of the internet. It is not hard to see why. Take for instance a scenario in which a country wants to change certain aspect of its domain names. Any changes carried out at the top level, adding new country level suffixes, for example, have to be checked by the US Department of Commerce, which verifies that proper procedures has been followed. Once that check has been done, the actual implementation of the changes carried out by VeriSign. The first page on the internet is still live. With millions of websites and billions of web pages currently online, there has to be a certain page where it all started. Fortunately, all of us, the first web page that started it all, it's still live and shows us how fast we have evolved to the internet age of today. This page is apparently the first page on the internet and is evidence of the 1991 project. Is the net hurting the environment? Sending an email across the Atlantic Ocean does not burn any jet fuel, but the internet is not without its own huge carbon footprints. One estimate suggests it takes a whopping 152 billion kilowatt hours per year just to power the data center that keep the net running. Add to that the energy used by all the computers and peripherals linked to it, and the whole thing could be responsible for as much as 2% of all human-made CO2 emissions, putting it on a par with the aviation industry. The way we use our computer also has an impact. According to Google, the production of the electricity needed for a single internet search generates 200 milligrams of CO2. This may not sound much, but it adds up. 1000 searches produce the same CO2 emissions as an average European car traveling 1 kilometer worth. Internet traffic is currently growing at around 50% each year. Yes, it's a 50% each year. So according to the according to the International Environment Coalition, the climate group, total emission from computers will increase by 280% to the equivalent of 1.4 gigatons of CO2 by 2020. If the IT industry continues with business as usual, there is no question that the internet's energy consumption will skyrocket. So, as a result, many organizations are turning to so-called green data center, which are far more efficient at cooling computers. At the same time, new computers are becoming more efficient. This has led to the energy needed to send each megabyte of data. Where does the internet go? According to a study by Google, the entire internet is estimated at around 5 million terabytes or 5 billion gigabytes. The most eerie fact about this study is that Google claims that it only indexes around 0.04% of this data. The rest of the data is stored in what is known as the dark web and the deep web. Internet addiction is real. Internet addiction is a real phenomenon, and users have to take actual medical help for relief. China recently opened up Internet addiction center that help ailing patients to overcome their digital trap and stay away from their smartphone and social media life. How big is the net? The mind seems to grow giddy by looking so far into the abyss of time, said the 18th century scientist John Playfair, recalling the moment he learned of the Earth's long story. If Playfair could peer into a depth of the internet, he might get that giddy feeling again. In 2005, Google estimated the internet contains some 5 million terabytes of data. That's more than 1 gigabyte for each of Earth's 4.5 billion trips around the sun. There are simpler ways to appreciate the internet's sheer scale. Recent estimates suggest that well over 1 billion people rely on computers to access the internet. Yet there are also a billion or so of other people who use cell phones to visit cyberspace, making them as much a part of the online community as someone surfing from a PC. That the internet is a vast, undoubted. In July 2008, web servers were introduced to Google.com, built by its designer as the world's biggest search engine. It indexed an impressive 120 billion pages, but shortly before its launch, Google announced that its system had registered a trillion unique pages. Even this might represent a fraction of what is out there. Some estimates suggest that there could be hundreds of times more information stored on the internet than Google or Quill have so far indexed. One thing's for sure, the internet and its content will continue to grow rapidly. According to Google, several billion web. Commercial transactions were initially banned till 1992. Till 1992, the US Congress had actually banned any kind of commercial transaction over the internet, as the WWW was initially a program for governmental purpose. Later, they opened up trade via the internet, and the rest is history. Is there only one internet? Probably for now, the internet is a disparate mix of interconnected computers, many of them on large networks run by universities, business, and so on. What unites this network of networks are the communication language known as TCP/IP. There are also a few large networks that use different protocols and which remains largely isolated from the internet, including something called FidoNet and like this, so which links bulletin board system via the global telephone network, as well as handful of military network. The main internet is the only one of any significant size, as far as we know. Yet, while a common computer language has proved a key to the internet's phenomenal success, another form of language, this time human, could eventually trigger its fragmentation into several separate regional internets. In 2007, under pressure from China and Russia, icann finally allowed the use of non-Latin characters in online countries. However, it could also prove to be the beginning of the end of the internet as we know it. One possibility is that we could see the appearance of domain names that are not recognized by the rest of the network. If server or routers aren't set up to worse will come if, say, the Chinese government decides to set up. Could we shut that down? Almost certainly not. Much of the infrastructure, the server, cabling and satellites, and the ISPs that run them is in private hands. A government might be able to mandate that ISPs in their territory be shut down, but people could still receive data through satellite links controlled by companies not answerable to that government. To extend that shutdown across national border is barely conceivable. One very powerful government could have strongest effect on their own country, but it would be very difficult to do on a worldwide basis. Many experts say that it's hard to think of a reason why we might want to shut down the internet. Even the biggest cyber attack causes much less economic damage than closing the internet would.